we got some cool WWE stuff to talk about. John Pollock was I guess Jimmy Traina. You ever heard of Jimmy Traina? He does
I
the
know.
Train of Thoughts podcast.
I never listened to his podcast. I know the name just from seeing it floating around the internet over the years.
Well, he had a guy on. I'm trying to click the link. I know he had a guy on there that has written several books about media. He's kind of like a big guy in writing books about media. He's done a Saturday Night Live book. He's got another book out. Well, anyway, he was on Jimmy Traina's thoughts on Sports Illustrated and was kind of talking like he thinks that Warner Brothers Discovery could actually make a play for the WWE media rights, man.
That's really interesting. That's really, really interesting that this comes out today because like there's a lot of this was a lot of hubbub. And my first thought was, well, yeah, why wouldn't they? Right?
Right.
Like, especially because I don't know if it's a rumor, if this is conjecture or what right now, but there's a thought that they could lose out on some of the NBA deals, right? And that's a
Yeah.
big part of what's floating Warner Media on the television landscape. So I can understand them kicking the tires and seeing like, hey, maybe we should try to go all in on WWE. I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they want to work with a prestige brand? Because that's what I'm not a big WWE fan, but it's a prestige brand. It looks good for your
Hmm.
IP, to say, hey, yeah, we got WWE involved, especially now with their new merger. There's extra attention on them. They got those UFC ties. We know they're got that Warner Brothers Discovery has ties with Dana White. So it doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't surprise me at all, too, that WWE would talk to them. Now,
Yeah.
that being said, I don't know how far this really goes, quite honestly.
Yeah. I don't know if anything's ever gonna come of it, but if they're not talking to WWE, they're foolish. And if
Right,
WWE is not open to going to Warner Brothers, they are also foolish.
right.
Um, Look, so if you're TNT TBS, and let's take away, let's forget about the fact that they already have AEW, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is the one thing making USA a top brand in cable? It's
WWE.
it's WWE. You take WWE away from USA, and USA is completely out on its ass. It's a dead brand essentially.
Oh, yeah.
They have no other hit shows other than WWE. But TNT, TBS, they have the NBA, they have Major League Baseball, they have hockey now. And then if you add now, they're probably going to lose some of the rights for NBA. Not all of them, but I think maybe they're going to cut down the amount of games that they're going to air on their networks each week. So that's going to open them up for more top brands. And if they bring in WWE, like you said, it's a prestige brand. I think that keeps them right at the top of the cable heap, whether they decide to go on TBS or TNT. Now, why would they ditch AEW for WWE?
Prestige brand.
Again, it's a prestige brand, right?
Mhm.
Do you think the WWE programming, if they were to secure the streaming rights on HBO Max, do you think it would do better than AEW?
Oh,
Very
for sure.
likely it would.
Mhm.
Yeah, very likely it would. And they're trying to get their Max brand over that 120 million mark. And also, Warner Brothers Discovery already has a deal with the WWE over in the UK because they own BT Sport, and BT Sport is the streaming home and the TV home of the WWE in the UK. So there's already a little bit of a relationship there. So I don't think it's all that far fetched that Warner Brothers Discovery brings them on board.
I don't think it's far fetched. I don't know if it's going to happen, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Like, I think that we're definitely in the conversation window for both companies as far as media rights deals go. Um, is this a play from? Does WWE plant the story? There's a good chance. I think there's a very
Yeah. Oh
good
yeah.
chance WWE planted the story. That's what you do. Like, I think that there's a really good opportunity that WWE has here to kind of negotiate AEW's asking fee down and try to cost, because that's what, let's be honest, we talk about wrestling where most people don't want to admit that such a thing is possible, but WWE would like to see them get less money as possible. By
Yeah.
being in the conversation, they can, so it gives Warner Media an opportunity to say, if you don't take this, we could always just go with WWE. Right? That's an
Yeah.
opportunity. It keeps things reasonable and balanced for them because they don't want to. I know we're all under the assumption that AEW is going to get a big rights increase. They will get a rights increase, big one. I don't know. I don't think we'll know till the end of the year, quite frankly. And it's within Tony Khan's best interest too to not put all his eggs in the Warner Media basket. And I don't think he is either. What do you think about that? Do you think Tony Khan is talking to other people too?
Again, it's one of those. If he's not, he's an idiot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he's not, and he's not an idiot, by the way, he's very smart and he's done a great job with the brand. But if he isn't, it's very likely your theory is holding up. It's that secret that nobody knows about, that Warner Brothers Discovery owns a piece of AEW. That's something that you've been speculating on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not the only person saying that. There's been some other people out there speculating it. I think it absolutely could be true. Now, this guy, his name's James Andrew Miller. This was more speculation on his part, but because he's kind of a respected guy in the space, it started to pick up a little bit of steam in the wrestling media circles. But if Tony Khan isn't talking to other folks, and that was the deal with Ring of Honor, right? He never pitched it to anybody else outside of the Warner Brothers family, and so it hasn't gotten picked up. So I don't know. Maybe there is something to the fire that AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery, they're in more business than just buying leasing TV rights.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that they are, because again, Tony didn't shop the Ring of Honor brand around, and we talk about prestige branding. AEW is a higher, I don't want to call it a prestige brand, but it's definitely has a higher Q score, if you will, kind of a cliche term, than Ring of Honor does, right? Like AEW is an emerging brand. Ring of Honor has never really been a brand, right?
No.
So, but at the same time, I've always found it interesting that Tony Khan did not make that purchase as an AEW subsidiary. He made it as his own. Right. He's made that clear from day one that, I own AEW or I own Ring of Honor. I've always wondered, why make that a thing?
Yeah.
So again, I think these guys are smarter than they play out, than we see them, except for David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brother Discovery, who has made more than a handful of moves that have kind of bit the company since the merger just about a year ago. Like if you look at that stock, I wish I should have sent it to you. The stock price has plummeted, hit lows in December, and it's ticked up since then with talk of Max, the Max streaming platform. It's kind of like doing an ebb and flow thing right now. It is higher than it was at the beginning of the year, but it's not like this company is as strong as it was a year ago when there was hope that this merger could actually do something. So Zaslav has made a lot of poor decisions. Like the stuff with the DCEO has really bit him on the film department. Like they need a hit. Basically, they need this Max to really go all out. And we've talked, I don't remember if we talked about it on this show, but I talked about it on my superhero show about the idea of shuttering shuttering HBO as the name of the platform. And I just read an interesting article about why that was a good move. It seems like a gamble to people like us, but there are those that see HBO and think, that's not for me. That's like snob TV. There are people that think that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is the Discovery fan base, right? The people that watch Dr. Pimple Popper and 90 Day Fiance and all those things. So they're trying to make Max kind of a one-stop shop, as opposed to Disney, which that's who HBO Max was trying to compete with, was Disney, but they capped themselves immediately by not being Disney. So if you're trying to go all in this all-encompassing app, having pro wrestling on your station is important. And realistically, and I'm an AEW fan, although I've made no bones about that, but having WWE on your platform is more valuable than having AEW. It just is.
Yeah. I think there's something to that about the people that typically will watch Discovery programming, HGTV and the Discovery Channel and things like that. They're not likely watching Game of Thrones. And I'll tell you, like, for example, my wife, she's probably never even clicked on HBO Max. We've had it for a long time. Never seen a single thing on HBO Max. She's definitely not watching Game of Thrones or anything like that. It's a bit too violent for her. But she will watch Chip and Joanna Gaines every chance she gets. She just loves that stuff.
Mine
right?
too.
So she's more interested in that. So it just seems like the merger of it. I don't think calling it HBO was what it would have worked, because
no, I agree.
But calling it Max, I don't know that calling it Max is better.
I agree with that too.
Because I associate that from the 90s whenever my parents would go to sleep and I would go kick on Skinamax at 12
yes.
on a Friday night. That's what I associate the Cinemax brand. It just seems to me that like Discovery Plus was already kind of a big deal. You should have just called it, Discovery Max or Discovery Plus, something like that. But
Discovery
I think
Max
that
would have been better. I
Yeah,
agree with
but
that.
there's also the problem that your guys like you and I, we're not really watching Discovery
No.
Channel though. You know what I mean? So we're probably not going to go to Discovery Channel unless our wives make us. Now, you would have to do a lot of branding and a lot of advertising to get guys like us to go and watch some of the programming that they have on there. If it wasn't for Joshua Gates and Expedition Unknown, I probably would never watch the Discovery Channel.
Robert Irvine and the Food Network. Robert Irvine, Gail Kim.
Yeah,
It's not an
no,
Impact show anymore. I don't have to
no,
make that connection.
we're retired, damn it.
We're retired. Yes, it's my gag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would watch some Food Network stuff on occasion, but yeah, that's how you grow the fan base. You have to
Yeah.
if the goal is to cast this wide net on the one service as opposed to having multiple services that can accumulate that base together, then you have to cast a wider net, right? So, and again, I'm not a fan of Max as a name either, but let's be honest, Peacock sucks as far as
Yes.
a name brand goes. That's terrible. Like they could
Yeah.
have just called it Universal. They could have called it Comcast. There's a million things they could have called it, and they went with Peacock, which is a terrible, terrible name on so many levels. Hey, what can we rock on the cock tonight? Like, it's just who are in these meetings? Like, but at least it's consistently terrible across the board. But I do
Yeah.
think that again, Zaslav has everything in this. If this doesn't work, that's pretty much the end of him. I would say probably at Warner Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's
Yeah,
the
well,
other.
and
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'll float this
oh,
one.
and I would say, and then if this doesn't work, I think you'll start seeing a lot of Warner Discovery products on the cock, because there's
Mhm.
also the talk of the merger
That's
between Warner Brothers and NBCU.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up next. I know a lot of people talk about this like a done deal, but we lived through a supposed done deal that people were freaking out about, and that was not Turner, excuse me, that was Tribune Media Sinclair, right?
Mm-hmm.
About 4 years ago, I want to say, when there was the talk of the Tribune Media and Sinclair would create the biggest media giant in the world, would be that, and it didn't work. The government said, nope, too big, you're done. And then Sinclair went ahead and fell on its ass shortly thereafter. So I would be very surprised, especially with the Biden administration doing things, that this would happen. Right? I would be
Yeah.
very surprised if that would go through. I think that stranger things have happened. I don't think it's fair to compare Fox Disney, because what Fox did was Fox spun off its film television divisions and then
Mm-hmm.
sold those to Disney. Fox, or News Corp as an entity, still exists in like Fox News and stuff like that. So what we
Right.
grew up with as Fox doesn't exist anymore. It's now part of Disney, but Fox in and of itself still is a thing. So I mean, these
Right.
are weird. These are weird corporate things. I mean, I don't know. The next 6 months are going to be really interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's gonna be super interesting. It's gonna be. I don't know that WWE is going over to Turner, but who or Turner? Sorry, Warner Brothers Discovery. There's no more.
Formerly
There's no more
Turner.
Turner. Yeah, there's no more Turner.